Alright, so today we are talking about the occult brick cycle of ceremonial magic. Let's get into it. The name for this is inspired by the Black Brick, also known by its actual name of The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie. This is a massive textbook on all things related to the Golden Dawn system of magic. This is the OG Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn's entire system of magic is right in this book, and it is awful. This is a textbook. It is dry. It is very British. It is very dry and British at the same time, and it's also very dry, British, and very Victorian England. This is from the 1900s. This is from the late 1800s to early 1900s, and that's when these documents were made. It is old, it is long, it is important, and it is dry. I have seen saltines that are less dry than this. I have seen saltines covered in salt that are less dry than this. I have seen sand that is less dry than this book. I have seen hydrophobic materials, hydrophobic gloves that are less dry than this fucking book. That being said, you should not read this book cover to cover. That is not what this book is for. This is a reference book. Now, all of the books in the brick cycle are reference books. Unless I say otherwise, you should not be reading them front to back. That's going to cause you to go slightly crazy. And we want to minimize the amount of sanity damage we get when we're doing occult reading, because we want to try and not go crazy because we've just read 3 800-page books on the same topic. Moving on. Now, these are not usually included in the brick cycle, but I'm going to include them in the brick cycle as the extended bricks. The PGM. The PGM is definitely not usually considered in the ceremonial brick cycle. That being said, I'm the one who's compiling the ceremonial brick cycle, so I can make up whatever the fuck I want. So this is the PGM. The PGM is specifically the Bates translation. Yep, it's the Bates translation. Is the book you want to be going to for really old stuff. This is where we get the original Bornless rite. This is where we get probably some of my favorite rituals in the entire occult lexicon. There are some that are really simple. There are some that are really complicated. There are some that require animal sacrifice. We don't do those anymore. There are some that require a lot of really bizarre things. You could do those. Really what you want to be doing with the PGM is you want to go through the PGM and you want to be using it for inspiration. Now, some rituals you can take wholesale from the PGM. There is a love spell in the PGM that is literally, as you're talking to your crush, just keep repeating the name of... It's one of the names of, I believe it's Aphrodite. It's one of the names of Aphrodite. You just keep repeating that in your head, and it's supposed to make your crush fall in love with you. That's something you can learn how to do, and that's something that's kind of interesting. There's also weird money spells, like you make a wax talisman on a specific type of wood stump, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. The book is wild. This is where we get the Bornless rite, and it's great. Please go through. Now, I don't recommend you read this cover to cover, but what I do recommend, and this is going to happen a lot if you have fun with reading the PGM, you're going to find that a lot of people who read the PGM, and this happens regardless, this is the most insane thing. If you have a lot of people around you who read the PGM and do stuff out of the PGM and know the PGM, they're gonna, you're gonna ask them, oh, hey, do you have a ritual for this? And they'll be like, oh yeah, it's in the PGM. And then you'll be like, there's a ritual in the PGM to get a new car, and then they'll say, like, well, technically no, but it says to get a new chariot, so I think you can adapt it into being a car, because typically in tarot, the chariot can correspond to cars. That conversation happens a lot with people who read the PGM a lot. This is the, elastic stretches alas. You should go through and at least skim the PGM, because the PGM is kind of insane. It's kind of a weird book that, it's always good to have at least a passing knowledge of what is in the PGM and what you can expect, because there's a lot of animal sacrifice rituals, which we don't do. We don't do those. I don't condone those. But there's also a lot of very bizarre and very low material rituals in there. Like, again, that love spell where you just keep saying Aphrodite, Aphrodite. Or, I think it's actually a name of Isis? I forget which one it is. I haven't read the PGM in a while, and I'm not going to go check for this book recommendation video. I know I saw it. It was there. Don't worry about it. The next one in the brick cycle, Agrippa. This is the 3 bricks of occult philosophy. Now, you should read these cover to cover, unfortunately. And I promise, if you are reading Agrippa, like right now, if you're reading the 3 books of occult philosophy and you're starting at book 1, I promise, I swear to God, it does get better. It does get better. It's not always that weird, and it's not always insane pseudoscience that we've disproven years ago. It does get better, and if you look at it through a very... This is trying to explain occult, like, hidden aspects of physics, then it's less weird, but at the same time, we have a better understanding of physics, so just get through the first half of book 1. I promise it gets better. The magic stuff is really good in Agrippa. I'm not going to keep preaching about Agrippa. I'm just going to say it does get better. The next one is The Blue Brick from Thelema, also known as Liber ABA or Book 4 by Aleister Crowley. This is a book that I have honestly not read cover to cover, because I can't fucking stand Crowley, because he is both British and pompous, and his magic is very sexual, and it's not sexual in the fun way, it's sexual in the, like, weird, creepy bald man way. Like not the guy who, like, willingly shaves his head, like the man who's, like, bald in the corner, kind of weird. That's kind of how Liber ABA vibes to me. But Crowley does talk about some interesting concepts in Liber ABA, because I've read enough to know that he does talk about some very interesting concepts. So you should read Liber ABA. I'm not going to, because now I can keep my... I have never fully read a book by Crowley other than Book of the Law, and Book of the Law makes me want to go fucking ballistic, because it's insane. Moving very quickly on from the blue brick, we move to the purple brick, which is Llewellyn's Guide on Ceremonial Magic. Now, this is very different from the other books that we've talked about, except for maybe the PGM. This is not actually a book written by one person, and we know that this isn't written by one person, though you could make arguments that all of these books are written by multiple people, especially considering that everything except for Liber ABA is the only one that seems to be completely wholesale written by one person. The purple brick is broken down into chapters, and it is kind of a mini primer, much like my YouTube videos, on different forms of ceremonial magic, written by people who are basically authorities in their specific field. When you have a book that has Aaron Leach, Stephen Skinner, the Ciceros, and John Michael Greer, and Lon Milo Duquette, that book can't be that bad. I'm sorry, there is no way that book is bad, and it's not that bad. It's actually a really good book, which is why I'm recommending it here. The final one I'm going to be talking about is actually a very, well, none of these are exactly bricks, but that being said, this book is actually kind of important to me. This is the Kabbalah Magic and the Great Work of Self-Transformation, which I'm going to be calling the Red Brick. This is the book I use to self-initiate myself into magic. This is the book that I recommend people get started with. Is it outdated? Probably. Has anyone written a sufficiently good replacement? No. Is there going to be a good replacement? At some point. Maybe. Cough. But without that, you're not really going to find a better book on ceremonial magic than this. As long as your goal is to become a ceremonial magician. Now, it does do a lot of it does post-Golden Dawn solitary magic very well. It's got a lot of Thelemic influence, but that's not really a problem. It's not really a problem when you think about it, because a lot of Thelema is just Golden Dawn ideas stolen and modified by Crowley. The only really annoying one that I don't recommend is do not use the Golden Dawn's version of the Lesser Banishing Ritual. Don't use the Thelemic version. There's reasons for it. I'm not going to get into it. It's not worth a video, but it has to do with the cross symbolism. You'll find out if you decide to go through and you read the Liam Thomas Christopher book. Now, it does have you do a lot of Egyptian stuff, and I'm just going to straight up say that the Egyptian stuff that you have to do if you decide to follow this book to the letter is annoying, stupid, and bad. Because in the Golden Dawn system of magic, the worst and the weakest parts are the Egyptian stuff that they have you do. The Egyptian, the weird pseudo-Egyptian in the Golden Dawn system of magic is not that good. It's not good. It's not good at all. I don't like it. I think it's kind of icky, kind of sucks, and quite frankly, it needs a lot of work. But yeah, this has been the Occult Brick Cycle. Why am I recommending these? Because these are all of the important big bricks that you should be reading, or at least having knowledge of, except maybe the last one, the Self-Transformation book by Liam Thomas Christopher is actually only, that's actually a fairly niche book, I'll be honest. But the other books, you should at least know about all the other books. You should know about the Golden Dawn. You should know about Liber ABA. I haven't read it, as I've mentioned, but I've read enough to know that it's okay. You should read The Purple Brick, Llewellyn's complete book of ceremonial magic. You should read that. That's one of the ones you should read cover to cover. The 3 Bricks of Occult Philosophy, also known as The 3 Books of Occult Philosophy by Agrippa. You should read those front to back. I promise they're not that bad. They get better. I promise they do get better if you're reading them. The Red Brick, also known as the complete Kabbalah Magic and the Great Work of Self-Transformation. That's the name of the book. That book is really good if you want a good initiatory practice. I recommend a lot of the stuff in that book, and honestly, for a large part of my practice, has just been modified versions of that book. It's not that bad, and you really should be reading it. It's pretty good, if you're interested in that. And of course, you should not read the PGM front to back. Some crazy bad lad has already done it because I've recommended. They paused the video and was like, damn, I should read the PGM. And they went ahead and did it. And to those 2 people who did that, good on you. Please leave a comment telling me some of the most insane rituals that don't require animal sacrifice that would be useful to, normal people in modern day. Those would be really cool. If you could give us a page number with the Betts translation, we would all appreciate that. I'm not gonna do it, but I appreciate the fact that there is a possibility of somebody doing that. You should skim read those, and you should always look for those if you want some really weird out there stuff, because PGM rituals, they kind of slap. They're kind of a whole ass vibe. I use them in a couple of my rituals, and they really, like, some of those rituals, you can add those, like, as a little bit of seasoning, and you got a good ritual right there. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hope you're having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy.